Welcome into the Merrifield Sportsbook Show. It is time to preview the second weekend of the NCAA Tournament. It's the full cast of members this week. Jay Walsh, you return from your wedding in Arizona, I believe it was. Matt, you were here last week, but you're back from Cleveland, and you're departing for Atlanta in like 48 hours, actually less than that. And Jay DeCoster, he's just sitting in Chicago, where we just heard the Greg Berhalter L train roll by. Greg Berhalter in the Chicago Fire on a 3-game win streak. He is sending those teams onto the L train. Jay, are they planning the parade in Chicago yet for the Fire?
And Greg Ball's in full effect, as there was 2 trains that literally just passed by as you were saying that. It keeps on rolling, you know.
Hey,
you just gotta watch out for the L train.
Berhalter is just plowing down those tracks. I mean, we can't complain. Jay Walsh, how was that wedding? Was it warm compared to here where it snowed?
Actually, believe it or not, it was not. The day of the wedding itself, it was actually warmer in Michigan than it was in Scottsdale, which was really fun to be a part of. Especially since it was an outdoor ceremony. But no, it was a good time. There were a couple nice days, so I was able to golf out there, which was very interesting considering I had to use my uncle's clubs, and that was an interesting time. Let's just put it that way. But no, it was a good time. We had some nice weather. Obviously, good to see family and stuff like that. But glad to be back talking hoops in the best time of the year with the boys.
And then Matt, some of us in this show met up on Friday night inside the Rocket Arena. That would be me and you. How was the rest of Cleveland figuring out how restaurants stay open after 10 p.m. and all that fun stuff?
I mean, Cleveland is just as electric as it gets. You walk into a restaurant and it's a Saturday night, and you're thinking 8 o'clock. Yeah, it's a little late for dinner, but also there's games on. This is a bar. This is like an Irish bar. Like, there should be no issue. We sit down and they hand us a late night menu. It is 8:05 p.m. Like, I don't want appetizers the rest of the night. I want to eat something. I want some shepherd's pie. I want a Guinness, and I want to watch your Houston blow this lead to Gonzaga. And instead, we get up, we go to Buffalo Wild Wings because they have to, I know they're serving food, right? We walk in, 5 open tables I walk by, and it's just 3 of us trying to go eat. Oh, it's a 30-minute wait. Yeah, get fucked. So then we decide to take our talents to basically a local version of a Buffalo Wild Wings. I can't even throw out an ad for this place because I don't remember what it was called, but it was essentially a Buffalo Wild Wings if it wasn't chained, and it was quite good. They served us food, and then we went on our merry way and found an open bar in Cleveland. We found 2 bars open in Cleveland past 10 p.m., Nick, to your surprise. So, wow. But overall, Cleveland's great. Can't wait to be in Atlanta in 28 hours. And yeah, that should be a lot of fun. You know, it's gonna be 70 degrees all week. That's great.
You can't complain about that. And I guess since you mentioned it, let's just get straight into it. Let's go to the South region in Atlanta.
Oh, Nick, I have one more thing.
Okay.
I have one more thing. I could have waited for you to. I'll just talk about the South region being in Atlanta, but I will have a full Atlanta aquarium review for you. I may even get an expert to come on the show and talk about the aquarium this time next week. So I'll make sure to lock down that special guest. But because I feel like I've had to hear about this damn aquarium for months at this point, so all of you get to hear about it at some point. But anyways, please continue. Let's get to the basketball. We'll get to the fishes next week.
I can't wait. Shout out the Georgia Aquarium. Never been, but I've heard it's something. South Regional, the State Farm Arena, I believe. It's one of the regionals of all time. It could become very messy. Your early game on Friday night, it's like a 7 o'clock tip or something like that. It's Michigan State going up against Ole Miss. Your late game that night is the number 1 overall seed Auburn going up against Michigan. This could become a disaster very fast. I would say it's one of the better regionals out of the 4. Some of them, the matchups just aren't great. Jay Walsh, I'll go to you, and I'll amend our show sheet because I just noticed Ole Miss is on there twice. But why don't you talk about the South Regional? Tell me your thoughts here and why this is going to end up being a disaster.
Well, I got a little bit into it in the pre-show, and I'll kind of expand on my feelings here. But in terms of the early game, the Michigan State Ole Miss, I really feel really cautious about how confident I feel in this game. And it's for a number of reasons, and I really don't like the fact that I feel this confident, but I feel like Ole Miss's strengths play directly into MSU's strengths, and Ole Miss weakness play directly into MSU's strengths as well. Ole Miss, one of their top aspects is their three-point shooting. I mean, so far in the tournament, they've been lighting it on fire, shooting, I believe, damn near 50%, if not over, from 3 for the tournament. Obviously, MSU has the top three-point defense in the country, just guards that will hound you on the perimeter, make it incredibly difficult to get open shots. And the big thing that I think is going to be the difference maker between these two teams is Ole Miss is terrible at rebounding. I believe their defensive rebounding percentage is they rank somewhere in the 300s, if I'm not mistaken. If not the 300s, certainly the low 200s. Both of those things play into the advantage of Michigan State in this matchup. I really feel bad about how confident I feel because I know that I'm probably dooming us to a matchup where Ole Miss makes like 60% of their threes and there's just nothing we can do. But I feel like Michigan State walks through this game. I think they hound Ole Miss early. I think this is one of the few games where I feel like MSU is going to get off to a good start and they're just going to keep pounding away. So I feel like MSU wins this game fairly easily. In terms of the later game, Auburn, Michigan, as much as I would love to see Michigan State in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four for the 3rd time this season, and by love to see it, I definitely mean I would hate to see it because that would probably give me a heart attack. I just don't necessarily see it happening. I think this Auburn team is too good. And while Michigan does present a really unique problem for a lot of other teams to guard with 2 borderline elite offensive 7-footers, their guard play has just been terrible all year. Obviously, in the 2 games so far in the tournament, it's been much better. You had a Roddy Gale masterclass in the last game to get them to the Sweet 16. I don't necessarily see a repeat of that happening. I think they're really going to be struggling from the perimeter and just to get any offense through the guards. And I think Auburn is and has been all season just the better team. Friends of the program, former SP members, Burke Dugan and Rami. I'm not even going to attempt the last name because I feel bad for messing it up every time. But they both confirmed that they believe, and I kind of agree with them, that I'm getting a lot of 2021 Baylor vibes from this Auburn team in terms of they were considered one of the top teams throughout the regular season, kind of stumbled a little bit down the stretch. So people kind of started writing them off, going with the bigger story, obviously Gonzaga from that year. And this year, Florida and Duke, people really latched onto. And then they get into the tournament and they just start blowing people away. And I mean, you saw in the round of 32, Janai Broom did not have a great game. I believe he only scored 8 points, not a very good shooting night against Creighton, and they still won by double digits. So I just think this Auburn team is going to be too much. I think we see an Auburn-Michigan State matchup in the Elite Eight.
Matt, we'll go to you next. Obviously, you will be the one in the building on Friday night. Your kind of overall thoughts. I know we've had discussions about what this Michigan State game at least could be, but your overall thoughts on these two.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jay Walsh, and I guess I hate myself for how much I kind of feel comfortable in this game, and maybe just from the vibe of on Sunday, I was worried that if something stupid happens and this team misses the Sweet 16, like what the hell, this season, kind of forever, it's all will build up, and still, I think a loss on Friday would still feel that way. Like you got to get to Sunday in order. Like if they lose to Auburn on Sunday, you kind of have to sit there and say, hey, you lost the number 1 overall seed. You won the Big Ten regular season title. You made it to the Elite Eight. Yeah, you did made it to the Final Four. I know this fan base wants more, but you can't be mad at the year that happened. I think a loss today or on Friday would leave a sour taste in our mouth. And I think maybe, and Nick, I kind of talked about how this felt like 2019 in terms of the setup. And I know we're not playing the 3 seed, but we are playing a 6 seed SEC team that, with all due respect, might be coached by a scumbag. And there's an opportunity to get to the Elite Eight and play the number 1 overall seed. Now, obviously that LSU team a couple years ago was better than this Ole Miss team. But this Ole Miss team is built, they don't play as fast paced as the 2 teams MSU just played, but they're built the same way to an extent. They have 7 guys. They have Sean Padula, who was a 13 all SEC guard. He does everything for them. He's their best 3-point shooter. He's their best scorer. He's their leader in assists. He only has 3.5 a game. Leader in steals, he plays 33 minutes a night. And then Malik Dia, he's a 6'9" guy that can stretch the floor, but they have no interior defense. Their leader in blocks this year has 33 in 35 games. Dia's not even their blocks leader as their tallest player. They have a 6'6" wing that has 33 blocks. This team, I think State takes care of business. Can you take away the 3-point line? They're going to have, Ole Miss is going to struggle, and then State, I think, is going to have an easy job getting to the basket. And it's not like this is a super long Ole Miss team either. One of their key players that has started most of the year is a 5'11" guard. Padula's only 6'1". Diaz 6'9". Let's see. I'm trying to look at all the other guys that play. Devon Barnes is 6'4". Morrell is 6'4". This is not a big team either. It's not Bryant, who was super long, or even New Mexico was a pretty big team. They're small forward almost the entire night, regardless of who's on the floor, was 6'8", 6'9". So I think I do like this matchup. I think, and the other thing, I know State hasn't looked the best in their 2 games in the tournament. Jace Richardson didn't play very well, played his worst game, matter of factly, on Sunday up until the 2-minute mark. And Jackson Kohler played terrible this weekend, and he knows it. Tom Izzo knows it. His dad, Jackson Kohler's dad, knows it. I don't think that'll continue on Friday. I think Jackson Kohler, who played really well in Atlanta back in November, I think he plays really well again on Friday night. So I think State wins that game. Obviously, the defense doesn't show up, and they don't want to guard anybody like they did in the first 10 minutes Sunday. Things might get dicey, but I don't know. This Michigan State team, this is a matchup of the teams they've played in the last month and a half. This Ole Miss team doesn't scare me like some other teams have. Moving to the other side, Michigan, Auburn. Michigan doesn't have any business winning this game, and then again they might, simply because they probably shouldn't have beaten A&M. But then Roddy Gale proceeded to play the game of his life. Nick, I shared the stat with you. Roddy Gale in the calendar year of 2025, before Saturday afternoon, was 3 for 35 from 3. He went 4 for 6. That's insane, and I get it's March and that happens, but simply the fact that if he doesn't do that, that Michigan team does not beat Texas A&M. But he did. They're in the Sweet 16. They got an opportunity, but hey, Michigan's best guard, Trey Donaldson, who has to play probably his best game to win on Friday, he's playing against the team that he wasn't good enough to get enough minutes, so he left. I don't know. I just truly don't see how Michigan wins this basketball game. Janai Broome is the best big man on the floor, so even the advantage that Danny Wolf, who has not been very good, Fly Golden's been very good, but Danny Wolf has not been good in March. Give me Michigan, and I think that sets up a absolute gauntlet and a perfect game on Sunday afternoon. Probably be the 4:00 tip between MSU and Auburn. Best team wins. I don't know who wins that game. I truly don't. I haven't looked enough at the actual matchup between MSU and Auburn to see who wins that game. Based on vibes, Michigan State's playing slightly better, but Auburn's still Auburn. But hey, from that point, we'll have to wait and see. So I'm excited. I think it's gonna be an absolute blast. Michigan State fans travel better, as good as anybody in the country. And Auburn is 90 minutes from Atlanta, and Ole Miss fans will show up. I truly believe so, because this is the second time they've ever made the Sweet 16, third time. So they've never made an Elite Eight. So I expect this to be an absolute, this is going to be a great showing in Atlanta and should be an absolute blast. I don't know who wins the Elite Eight game. I abstain from answering the question, but I think it's MSU Auburn on Sunday afternoon.
Jay, we'll go to you next. Your kind of overall thoughts here. I know a lot has been kind of said already, but kind of what you're thinking with both of these games.
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback on what you guys said, I mean, it's a really good matchup. I mean, I don't like to get overconfident, but Ole Miss's guards are very small. I think Michigan State's ability to guard them will be very not easy, but it's going to be easier than what they had to deal with. I think what we saw earlier this year was USC's guards and that USC loss. I mean, all their guards are very, very tall. Like they're very big teams. So I think that kind of set apart why they kind of lost that game. So I think it's a very good matchup. As far as like Ken Pom is concerned in this game, Ole Miss is very poor at allowing opponents free throws. Michigan State's very good at that. Not recently, but overall this season, that's been a big storyline for them. Also, good at causing turnovers. 33 in that department. They're a very short team as well, and they're excellent at avoiding turnovers. So just a couple of things to keep an eye on. And they're also a very poor offensive rebounding team. I mean, Michigan State, that's one of their best abilities is to do that. So that's just another bad matchup, for Ole Miss in that perspective. So just some things to look out for. I mean, I think it's a very good matchup. I mean, Purdue is a very good scorer, but I think, Holloman or Fears will be able to contain him pretty well. So, I mean, Michigan State should win this game. Ole Miss it does concern me because their 2 wins have been very impressive. Like, being Iowa State, I know they're injury riddled, but being Iowa State by putting 93 on Iowa State is very tough, especially because they're like a top 10 defensive team. So that scares me a little bit. I mean, they're kind of riding this high right now, but Michigan State should win this game. I mean, they haven't even hit their ceiling yet. They didn't even play that well in last week or this weekend, in my opinion. They have another bar to set, and I think that'll come in Atlanta soon. So definitely should be able to win that game. As far as the Michigan-Auburn game goes, like Matt said, Michigan really has no business winning this. I mean, they're kind of playing their best basketball right now. I mean, the Big Ten title, and then beating A&M, even though Roddy Gale decided to drop 30-something. I mean, where has that been all season? So Auburn should be able to win this. If not, it's just going to be a classic Bruce Pearl choke, like another March choke, losing against an inferior team. They should be able to get it done. So not really too much to put in that game. I mean, Auburn is the much better team. They're the number 1 overall seed for a reason. I do agree with Jay Walsh, though. I think they, people have been kind of writing them off ever since, that stretch they had in late February. Like, this is still a damn good team, and I'm frankly surprised a lot of people really don't have them winning at all, because I mean they have a great chance, and everyone's either picking Florida or Duke, and Auburn is going to be right there. So Auburn should be able to win this game. So yeah,
I don't really think I'd be adding much else than what's already been said. I will say I'm probably, out of what I've heard, I'm the most worried about Friday, just because like this does feel like that random game. Like, MSU hasn't played well really at all this tournament. This feels like a game where Ole Miss just, I know MSU has great 3-point defense, but it feels like it could just be one of those games where they just start going off and MSU can't catch up at that point. That's what is my biggest worry. As has been said, MSU should win this game. I feel like it would be quite a disappointment if they don't, given the way they've played down the stretch. But, I mean, kind of like I said in previous shows, like at this point, for my expectations on the year, they're already playing with house money. Obviously, expectations change. We might get into that in a few minutes here about some expectations I had on Sunday, but we'll get into that later. But MSU should win this game. They should be on to the Elite Eight. The question is, can they actually get it done? I don't know if it's going to play a big factor. The fact that MSU has already played in this building once this year, I don't know if that's really going to play a big factor, but it might. You never know. And then kind of like was said with the Michigan game, they have no business in winning that game, which is probably why they'll exactly win it. They'll keep it close for, 35 minutes and then somehow just pull it off at the end, just like they have for seemingly the past month. They have no business in winning it. It should be a Auburn, Michigan State Elite Eight, but I'm sure the basketball gods have other things planned and want to see the state of Michigan burn on Sunday, because it's going to be a disaster if it happens. It truly will be. I don't want to see it, but it probably is the better shot of Michigan State going to a Final Four if that's the matchup. But yeah.
Before we move on to the West region here, sorry, I just want to jump in real quick. I saw something on Twitter earlier today that I wanted to bring up because Matt talked about the potential crowds that would be showing up to support each of these teams. I saw there was a fairly notable Auburn fan account that was reaching out to a lot of MSU fan accounts on Twitter, talking about a potential alliance that they could form in terms of Auburn fans show up early, cheer for MSU, and then MSU fans stay late and cheer for Auburn. So that could be in the works, could be a possible home court advantage potentially, but just wanted to throw that one out there for anyone taking the crowds into account.
Yes, that indeed may be happening. Sharing a common bond of a terrible quarterback. Yeah. Let's move on to the West region. I'll save my rambling for later. It's Florida, Maryland, Texas Tech, Arkansas. Matt, I'll just go to you. Your thoughts on what will happen in San Francisco, a regional being hosted by a conference that is technically not real right now.
Is it hosted by the Pac-12?
Yes.
Well, that's certainly something. I think this Maryland-Florida game, Nick, and I'm going to unveil and open up the can of worms I started texting about earlier, and that is the fact that I think that there is a bubble in college basketball, and I think Maryland might be the ones to burst it on Friday or Thursday. That game's Thursday, correct? Yeah, yes. Thursday in San Francisco. I think this bubble is going to burst. We've been told all year that the SEC is really good, and I do think coming into the tournament, I thought there were certain teams that were. Auburn was one of them. Florida was another. I thought Missouri was good. I guess I was wrong. I thought Ole Miss was solid. The fact they're in the Sweet 16 does not surprise me. There were some teams I didn't think were very good. Some of them lost. A couple of them are still standing. Alabama, but here we are. And Michigan State won the Big Ten by 3 games. People thought Big Ten sinks, and then the Big Ten goes 8-0. They still have 4 teams here in the Sweet 16. How far can the Big Ten actually carry this, and are they good enough to go on a run here in this stretch? But I think that Maryland is the team to beat Florida. I think they match up starting 5 or starting 5, and that's pretty much all Maryland has. I think they can do it. Not that I don't think Florida – I still think Florida's really good, and I know UConn is very good. It's not like I'm scared because they went down to the wire with a Dan Hurley-led team, even though he threatened a former Impact alum, or UConn threatened a former Impact alum. Just absolute wonderful work going on in the sports media world yesterday. But I truly believe that Maryland could win this game, and then everything shifts to, wait, how good is Michigan State? I think that narrative is there for the taking on Friday morning. Should Maryland take care of business? Maryland might not cover. And I probably put money on Florida because 1 seeds, when they have a scare in one game, usually bounce back and kick the crap out of the next team they play. But I guess we'll wait and see, especially because Derek Queen traveled. Kevin Willard confirmed not going to Villanova, so we know he wants to be there and actually he's going to be focused on winning.
We're not really sure.
What is even the other game in this region?
Texas Tech, Arkansas.
I don't care about either of those teams. Texas Tech, I don't care. The winner of Florida, Maryland is winning this regional. Those are the 2 best teams in this regional. I don't love Maryland because of their lack of depth, but I don't know how much I care about depth until you play a team with depth. So in a game where I don't think Florida's super deep either, I'm going to lean Florida, but I'm excited about that game. I don't give a crap about Texas Tech, Arkansas. To be quite honest, I will not watch that game.
Given that Matt Merrifield said that, that means the winner of that game will be going to the Final Four. Jay, we'll move on to you.
The Chicken Nuggets are going to move on. Shout out Tyson.
Jay, we'll move on to you. Your thoughts here on this West Regional?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Matt. The winner of this game is probably going to the Final Four. Texas Tech or Arkansas is fun. I think Texas Tech is a very good team, but it's just a bad matchup for whoever they play. And Arkansas. We'll get to Arkansas in a minute, but they're on a high right now. It's going to end, crash and burn eventually. But for this game, Florida Maryland, I mean, Maryland can definitely do it. I mean, the Crab Five, they're damn good. I mean, we're not going to. I mean, I don't want to discuss a lot about the potential travel. I mean, it was, but whatever. It happens. And they were able to pull it off. I mean, somehow, but they match up really well. But Florida, they were battle tested against UConn. I mean, that's just a championship program. That's what you're going to get. UConn's not even that talented this year, and they still almost beat them. And Florida was able to escape that. I think Florida can definitely. I mean, I have Florida to win it all. I mean, they're just so deep. I mean, just some of the clutch genes that some of those guys have, and late in that game was pretty ridiculous. So, I'll take Florida in this spot. They're just so deep, and Alex Condon and those guys they're just so effective down low, and they shoot the three ball really well. I just think they're just a much better team. Obviously, they're a much better team in this spot, obviously, but I'll take Florida to advance. It will be a great game. I think this will be one of the best games that the Sweet 16 will have to offer, because Maryland's a really good team. I mean, but I would be pretty surprised if they end up winning this game. So it'll be very, very fun to watch. And then Texas Tech, Arkansas. I'll take Texas Tech. I mean, Arkansas is playing with house money at this point. I mean, hell of a job by Cal, by the way, to go in and beat Bill Self with a $5 million roster, then go out and beat Rick St. John's and Pitino and those guys. Like the story of college basketball. And then Kansas, who isn't very good, but also, Arkansas was surprising because they're just like on paper they're just not a very great team, and they somehow were able to do it. So they're playing with house money at this point. I mean, Texas Tech. I mean, they played Drake and Wilmington. I mean, we'll see what they actually look like, but they should be able to get it done against Arkansas, who's just kind of on a high right now, and they'll advance to the Elite Eight, playing not really playing a lot of great teams. So we'll see how that goes, but I'll take Texas Tech in that spot.
Jay Walsh, we'll go to you next. It really does feel like that Florida Arkansas game, Florida Maryland game is the one that kind of decides who's going to win this regional. Do you kind of feel like it's that same way, or do you think one of the other teams can put up a fight?
I am going to go ahead and disagree. I had in quite a few of my brackets, because I'm a sicko, I filled out a million brackets this year, but in quite a few of them, I have Texas Tech coming out of this region. I like the Red Raiders. I can see Matt shaking his head right now, but you shook your head at a lot of my conference tournament champion picks, and a couple of them worked out. So
this has to do. Nick is also shaking his head. This has to do with filling out multiple brackets. I don't hate the Red Raiders that much. I will say them versus Maryland would probably be a pick 'em in terms of spread. I have to imagine that would be a great game. I would lean Maryland, but continue, please. But this is just about the fact that you are woke nonsense when it comes to filling out multiple brackets. Unacceptable.
To be fair, I really only submit one of them for money pools. The rest are just put into one giant pool with a couple other people, just as many brackets as we can, just because we're disgusting people. But anyway, let me get back to the actual games that are being played. In terms of that Florida-Maryland game, I agree with you guys that this has the potential to be possibly the best game of the tournament so far. Obviously, I mean, the Maryland-Colorado State game was a lot to live up to with Queen's buzzer beater. Was it a travel? Was it not a travel? Personally, I believe not, but we can get into that discussion in a little bit. This Florida team, obviously, everyone jumped on them going into the tournament because they've been red hot. They were just slaughtering people going into the tournament. Maryland matches up with them well. I will agree with Matt and Jay there. They do match up with them well. However, the depth really scares me. Teams that don't have a lot of depth don't tend to do very well in March. And I know Florida isn't the deepest team in the world either, but Maryland essentially plays 6 guys. So I mean, I feel like when you're in a dogfight against a team like Florida, who, I mean, it's going to be a dogfight. They're going to just absolutely they're going to put the ball in the basket. And it's going to be 40 minutes of just trying to play catch up and trying to keep pace with them. I think that's going to tire the Terrapins out a lot. I'm going with Florida to take down Maryland in this one. Again, nothing against Maryland. I really like their starting 5. Obviously, I mean, Queen is a projected top 5 pick in the draft. He's phenomenal. They've got Julian Reese, who's also great. They have a number of good guards, but I think Florida outlasts them in this one. And in terms of the other game, Texas Tech, Arkansas, I'm going Texas Tech. Arkansas is a good story. Cal has to have the record for possibly the most satisfying win of all time, beating Rick Pitino in the second round of the tournament with one of Pitino's best teams in a long, long time. Not just to do with the fact that he hasn't been coaching in a while, but probably going back to his 2013 Louisville team, probably his best team since then. But that had to be a very satisfying win for Cal, but I don't see Arkansas going past this point. They're, like I said, they're a good story, but Texas Tech they're a very talented offensive team. JT Toppin is a phenomenal player. Obviously, we saw what he did in the second round against Drake. Just basically gutted Drake completely. Darian Williams, I believe his name is another great player, great scorer. So I think Texas Tech gets past Arkansas here, and I'm gonna stick with my pick of taking Texas Tech over Florida. Realistically, I could see Florida winning that game. I just think Florida might be in the case of a team that kind of started peaking too early and might be kind of headed for the downswing. Obviously, I mean, they could keep going. They could go all the way to the championship and win it. They're red hot, but I just feel like there's a decent chance they started peaking too early. So I'm going to stick with Texas Tech to make it out of this region and play either Michigan State or Auburn in the Final Four.
I don't know. I have Florida winning the national championship, but I can't lie. Sunday was a disaster. I mean, I went into that game. I think I told you, Matt, like I 100% didn't expect to win, but like obviously, if there was a team to pull it off, a Dan Hurley led team can pull it off. And then the first half happened, went into halftime tied. And I'm like, okay, we're hanging in there. And then most of the second half, UConn had that game. And I'm like, this is so just gratifying. Like they're going to do it again. They're going to get Maryland most likely, Sweet 16. They'll probably beat them. I was already thinking to San Antonio. And then it just fell apart. Fell apart in like the last 2 minutes and just became a disaster. And then we're threatening media members for posting videos about Dan Hurley just saying normal things. That's what he does. It's a disaster. Also, Hurley derangement syndrome taking over media right now. We got to cool it, guys. Like you're talking about him complaining about the refs because there's no other storylines for you to talk about. Let's move on. There's nothing new there. That's what he is. He does it so many times. It's not news, but here we are anyways. The actual basketball in San Francisco, I don't know what's going to happen. Florida is most likely making it out of the region. The fact that they almost lost to UConn doesn't worry me because UConn went out like the way they should have. Like they fought that game until the last second. And obviously they are two-time defending national champions. I wouldn't expect anything less. That doesn't worry me about Florida. They'll be fine. They'll get to San Antonio. I think Texas Tech ends up winning the other game, gives Florida a bit of a challenge in, I'd say, the first half, but it's Florida then on out. So let's move on to the East Regional in Newark, New Jersey. This is, at the beginning of the season, this is where UConn would have been as a 1 seed, and, they played in Providence already, and they would have been running through Newark for a third straight, but they're not. It's Duke this time. Duke is taking on Arizona in what will be most likely an incredible game. And the other one in that regional is Alabama BYU. Jay DeCoster, we will go to you first. Your thoughts here on the East Regional.
Yeah, I feel like in this region, first of all, you got Duke, and then you got everybody else. Duke is a powerhouse. They took Baylor's lunch on Sunday. That was crazy. Baylor's not a very good team, but also Duke just flat out dominated them. They got scores. They got everything that you need to win a national title. They're damn good. As far as this game goes, Caleb Love is going to need to have another 35-point hero ball game to win this because, Arizona-Oregon was fun, but I don't see Arizona. This is not going to be close unless Caleb Love drops like 35 again, but I don't see that happening again unless he pulls a Final Four type of game again. So I'll take Duke, and I think the spread's like 8.5 or something like that. I'll lay the points with Duke. They're just on a whole nother level right now. And then we got the good one. We got Alabama BYU. BYU is super fun to watch right now. Ryan Saunders and those guys. They have size with Mawat Mag. They can shoot it. They're so fun to watch. I'm taking BYU in this game. This is the over-under in this game. I think it's going to be like 150 or 160. Both these teams can score. Bama's a lot of fun. I just don't see them. If they win this game, they have a really good shot to beat Duke. I just don't see it happening here. I think BYU is on a really nice stretch right now. So I will take BYU to win this game. They're on a hot stretch right now, and I will take them to beat Alabama in the Sweet 16.
Jay, do you know what the over-under is in this game?
It's like 150. I don't know.
It's 175.5.
Well, there you go. Well, then that means we go higher. So, great offense.
Yeah, the lowest over-under of the weekend is Purdue-Houston at 132.5. All the other games are like 150 or in the 150 range. MSU's 144, but yes, the Alabama BYU 175. Anyways,
that means we go higher. You bet the over. When it's that high, you just keep going higher.
No, that's not what that means.
Oh, it does. So, give me BYU in the over is my recap there.
Which, by the way, speaking of horrendous betting lines, I just want to throw a quick shout out to Nick Burton, the UConn women's Huskies, in not covering the 71.5 point spread that they had in that game. I forget who they were playing against, but the half court heave to cover was phenomenal.
Are you talking about the Arkansas State first round game?
Yes, I am.
That was a live spread. That was not what it was set at. But
I'm
still.
aware.
Okay.
That's still disgusting. But just that combination of numbers was just. But
we'll figure it out. we may get into a little bit of women's hoops after we're done here. But Jay Walsh, you were next, so you might as well just keep rambling on here. Give us your thoughts on the East.
I am rambling. But anyway, the Duke-Arizona game, Duke's just better. This Duke team is just absolutely rolling people. I mean, granted, like Jay said, Baylor wasn't a great team, but, I mean, Duke just made them look – they made them look like a D2 squad. I don't see this game being close. I mean, Caleb Love is very interesting, obviously, with the former rivalry aspect, and he is one of those players that when he gets hot, there's very little that you can do about it. So I guess it could be reasonably interesting, but I think Duke walks away with this one. Not really a whole lot else to say. In terms of Alabama BYU, this is I am not an Alabama basketball person. I'm not a believer. I'm taking BYU here. BYU is red hot right now. They're looking very good. They're obviously shooting threes at an unbelievable clip, but I'm not a Bama basketball person. I am a usual believer that they are fraudulent. They played a not great, in my mind, St. Mary's team, and just kind of had better players than St. Mary's had. So I don't necessarily see the same thing happening against BYU. So I'm rolling with BYU here. Also, quick shout out to former Rutgers Scarlet Knight Cliff Amori, who had a very nice game against St. Mary's, but I don't necessarily see that happening again against BYU. So I'm rolling with BYU, and then Elite Eight game again. Give me Duke. BYU. They, like I said, they're hot. They've been rolling. I see them getting past Bama, but I don't see them getting past Duke.
Matt, we'll go to you next. I feel like you should address your prediction from last week that Robert Morris was going to beat Alabama. So why don't you address that first, and then you can go into your thoughts with the East.
All I will say is that I think Alabama had the same officiating crew, or Robert Morris had the same officiating crew that UConn had on Sunday. It was diabolical what happened in the final 6 minutes of that Robert Morris Alabama game, because Rocket Arena was rocking. That was a Robert Morris home game, and it wasn't just like, oh, you have St. Mary's fans rooting and Vanderbilt fans rooting for Robert Morris, because the place was empty for the second game. These were Robert Morris fans showing up and showing out to root against Alabama and root for their school. And that Dickerson kid, he was from Cleveland, which I had no idea who this guy was even before when I picked Robert Morris. They had him. They're right there, and then they said to try and run with Alabama, and you can't try and run with Alabama. That's why I'm worried about BYU, is because BYU likes to play this fast-paced, not quite Alabama, because I believe Alabama's the fastest tempo team in the history of the Ken Pom era. If I'm not mistaken, nobody's ever averaged 75 possessions a game, which is just absolutely sickening to me, and that's not basketball. They don't play defense. They're not a good defensive team, so I think BYU sticks with them. I'm taking BYU to cover. But unfortunately, I think Alabama wins this game because it plays into their hand. However, I really like Duke. I think Duke-Arizona is going to be might be the best game of the Sweet 16. I am thoroughly looking forward to it. I don't know why Arizona is getting 9.5 points in this matchup. I truly don't. These two teams, I think, match up very well together. Duke is good. They are a very good team. I believe that somewhat after this weekend, even though I still don't think they've played that many teams since they haven't played anybody since January 1st. I know they beat Auburn at home, but I think Arizona is better than people realize, better than I realized before the weekend started. They beat a very good Oregon team, even after falling behind early. So I do think Duke wins, but that game's going to be very close. I don't understand why that's the biggest spread of the weekend. And then championship game, I think I think Duke wins the regional. I still think Duke wins the regional. I think Arizona can win it. If I had to rank the teams in likelihood to win the regional, I still would take Alabama as the least likely. I don't think they match up very well with either team on the other side. But give me Duke to win the region. So I guess unfortunately, but I think how it's going to shape up is CBS is going to be very happy with the teams that end up in San Antonio in 2 weeks or next week, I guess.
Matt, I do have to take objection to you saying Duke has not played anybody since January 1st. You forget that they played Illinois at MSG, and Illinois have the highest ceiling in the Big Ten.
They have the highest ceiling of any team that's been eliminated from the NCAA tournament.
You're not wrong. I mean, you just can't overlook that fact. But this regional does it feels like Duke is going to roll through it. Obviously, I hope they don't, but it's going to happen. This team's going to end up in San Antonio. And it just is what it is. You kind of got to just make of it what you will and go on from there. I don't really have much else to say other than that. I think Alabama gets past BYU. I think they will give Duke a game in the Elite Eight, but I think Duke is just too much for Alabama. I don't see them going to back-to-back Final Fours. Let's move on to the final regional. The Midwest. Contrary to popular belief, this is actually being played at Lucas Oil Stadium. A lot of people thought this was at the Field House. No, it's not. It's in one of the end zones that Anthony Richardson can't find. Sorry, Matt. You would probably agree with that anyways. So, good thing Daniel Jones is going to find those end zones this year.
Please stop talking.
Okay. It's Houston, Purdue, Tennessee, Kentucky. Jay Walsh, start talking.
You're right. I should start talking before we get Matt going on the intricacies of Indianapolis Colts football. But anyway, we will get into the basketball games here. I really hate this region just simply because somebody has to come out of it. These are four teams that I usually swear by just completely counting them out in March as frauds. Houston, Purdue, I mean, I'm going to take Houston here. Purdue obviously is definitely, I mean, they ended the season really, really poorly, but they played two good games to start the tournament to get to this point, but I just think Houston's the better team here. I still don't love Houston, but I like them to beat Purdue, even though obviously, I mean, Braden Smith is a very good player. TKR, again, very good. But I think Houston's the better team here. So I'm rolling with Houston. And then Tennessee, Kentucky. It's a sin to count on Rick Barnes in March. So I'm going to go with Kentucky here. But I really don't even love this Kentucky team either. I mean, they've got some good players. Obviously, I mean, Lamont Butler had the nice game against Illinois, and then Brea, I believe his name was just raining threes against the Fighting Illini. But I don't know that any of the teams in this region are really that good. Like, Houston has been considered one of the best teams all year. I'm usually not a believer. So I'll go with Houston and Kentucky in the Elite Eight, and I'll go with Houston to make it out of the region just because, like I said, somebody has to. But I don't feel confident about whatever team ends up getting out of this region.
Matt, I'll go to you next. As I just saw that it is a Flint Tropics sweatshirt you are wearing. Shout out the Firebirds. We're in the playoffs. Probably not going to go well, but it is what it is. I need to bring this up to you, Matt, first, because I just saw it. I don't know if you know, but Mike Duggan had his State of the City today, his last one as mayor of Detroit. And the city of Detroit put out a tweet at exactly 8 p.m. saying Mayor Duggan announces Detroit will host the 2027 Final Four. Thank you for just announcing that, something that has been announced since 2022.
Yeah, but I was about to say yesterday or Sunday in Cleveland, they had a graphic up to play guess where the next Final Four is, but the next 4 years. and Detroit was on there. Like, I mean, this has been public knowledge. But anywho, is he going to announce that Wayne State is hosting a regional for the NCAA hockey tournament in 2 years or something too?
He might. You never know. And then one of the comments was, why not play it at Little Caesars? Is there a conflict with the NBA?
Wonderful. I love the intelligent human beings. The guy's probably a Michigan fan.
I can 100% confirm this is a Michigan fan, with their first tweet being a Central Michigan football retweet.
Could not draw that one out any better.
All right, back to basketball. This is what, the Midwest region. Let's see. Let's go through it. The roof will be closed. Unfortunately, Michigan State's not in this regional. Otherwise, I would have that tweet ready for what is it, tomorrow, Thursday, whenever that game's being played.
Friday.
Houston's going to kill Purdue, like absolutely belt to ass. Houston's guards are going to put Foster Loyer is going to go 0 for 8 from 3. Braden Smith's going to turn it over 6 times. Trey Kaufman-Wren is going to probably still put up 20 points, and Houston's going to kick their ass. What are we laughing about? Did I say something wrong?
Foster Loyer catching strays.
Oh, Fletcher. You understand what the fuck I'm saying. You got it. We all understand. We know what's going to happen. Houston, Fletcher and Foster could be on the floor. It doesn't matter. What the hell is Jakari Harris going to have a legacy game? I don't think so. Who else? I don't know who else is on Purdue. That's literally a 2-man show. And then if Fletcher does anything, that's when Purdue wins. And then the second game, I like Kentucky a lot. I really do. Unfortunately, and I'm torn because this is a team that has shown up in the big games this year. That's like the one thing that they've managed to do, is that when it matters, when they played Tennessee both times, they won. They beat Florida early in the year, or early in conference play, or early January. The Ohio State thing doesn't count. That I refuse to acknowledge the existence of that basketball game even being played. They beat Duke in Atlanta. I like this Kentucky team, and Rick Barnes in March. Rick Barnes is a favorite. Rick Barnes in general against the spread in March is absolutely terrible. So I feel like I have to take Kentucky to cover. Beating a team in 4 times or 3 times in a year is almost impossible, but I think I'm gonna go with Kentucky. I really do, even though I like Tennessee this year too, but I know better. And then Houston wins this regional. I don't even think that's much of a debate. As much as Houston still scares me because they haven't lost in long enough, and that Gonzaga game was tight. I don't see them losing to any of these 3 teams. These are 3 extremely flawed teams that Houston gets to play. If they were playing in the West, having to play Maryland and then Texas Tech, I would feel differently. Hell, if they had to play Arizona again, if they had to play Michigan State, I would potentially feel different, but I don't. This Houston team's going to the Final Four. They're going to play Duke, and then that game's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to set up for probably Florida. And I don't think all the 1 seeds are going to win. I think 1 seed is at least one's going to go down. And I guess the easy answer is to say, it's going to be Auburn because Michigan State. I don't know if that's the answer either. But let's see. But I think Houston's the safest 1 seed to get through.
Jay, we'll go to you next. I got nothing about other announcements from the city of Detroit on things that were announced 2 years ago. So just give me your thoughts on this Midwest region. First
of all, why is the game being played at Lucas Oil, and why is it at Lucas Oil, and why is it half the? Why just making it full? Why have the full stadium? Why? It's stupid. That's my rant. Yeah, exactly. Talk to him.
We need more ticket money to save more whales, Jay.
Yes, so true. Yeah, I looked at those. I saw a Purdue fan tweet. The ticket prices are going for like $300 in a football stadium. So that's great. But for this game, Houston's so much better. They're just elite. Purdue's run comes to an end here. They match up poorly. So give me Houston in this spot. And then Tennessee, Kentucky. Yeah, the Rick Barnes thing. I feel like he's gotten over the hump though in terms of, he has never been to a Final Four, but he's going to reach the Elite Eight again. So I like Tennessee in this spot. I think they match up really well with Sakai Ziegler and those guys. So I will take Tennessee in this spot, and then they'll lose to Houston. Houston's just so much better. This is an easy 1 seed advancing the Final Four. No doubt about it. So I'll take Houston to advance. But yes, Tennessee will find a way to get to the Elite Eight once again and then get bounced by the 1 seed once again. So in the Midwest. So I will take Houston.
I kind of agree. Houston this regional is set up for them. I don't really see any other team giving them a test. I know we talked about it in our bracket preview. It felt like the winner of that Gonzaga-Houston game probably just moves on to the Final Four. It still feels that way, so just give me Houston to move on here. They'll play most likely Duke, and that's going to make for a very entertaining game. No matter what, whoever else is there. That's at least an enjoyable game that I will be able to see. I'm sure ticket prices are going to go up because Houston's like 3 hours away. And that's going to be a disaster. But hey, we can't complain about that. So that wraps up, our previews of each regional. So now we'll just go around. Just give me your predictions on who is going to San Antonio. Jay Walsh, we'll start with you.
In the South region is really the only one that I just kind of have no idea, because I could, in terms of that Auburn potential, obviously, Auburn-Michigan State matchup, realistically, I could see either team winning. If I had to place money on one right now, I would probably go with Auburn, but I think Michigan State has a fighting chance to win that game. But I'd probably go with Auburn. And then the others, I said I feel decently confident. West, I like Texas Tech. Obviously, Florida could make a run at it and get there, but I like Texas Tech in this region. And then the 1 seeds in the East and Midwest, those two are both easy for me. Duke and Houston both getting in.
Matt, your final predictions on who is going to San Antonio.
I'm going to go Auburn. I think they're the best team in that region, truly. And even if, State would have to play a big basketball game, and they are capable of it, because truly in this last stretch, even on this winning streak that they just went on, there were plenty of games where they didn't play a full 40 minutes. I think we're kind of waiting for them to do it once. I think Jay kind of mentioned it. We haven't seen them play full 40 minutes. Or even a game where they kind of, play above. There have been games this year where Auburn and Duke are truly men among boys, and I don't think we've seen that from Michigan State this year. Maybe that's not there. Maybe it's just not the team they are. They don't play like that. But hey, they got 4 games left at max. They got to show it in one of them, I guess. And then in the West region, I'm going to go Florida. I still like what I see from them. That was a tough game against UConn. Walter Clayton's a stud. That 3 he made at the minute 15 mark, whatever it was, when after he said onions, that was tough. There's that you can't guard that, and he's just that type of player. Duke's in the Final Four. Enough said. In Houston. So I guess that's all 1 seeds. And I hated Jay Billis for saying that this was the year that we're going to have all 4 1 seeds in the Final Four. But man, the path was there, and the path has it has gone. Everything that needed to happen for each to have the path has gone right, and even the games where they could have slipped up. Houston with Gonzaga hasn't happened. I guess Auburn still has 2 opportunities to slip up in front of them, because that Michigan might win on Friday simply because they shouldn't. Then that's what they've done all year. They've won close games, game in, game out. And if it comes to Michigan for the Elite Eight, State will beat them. I'm not worried about playing Michigan as a Michigan State fan. I truly am not. I just don't want it, because there's nothing to gain from it, other than because if Michigan State wins, the Michigan fans just sit there and say, well, we're not a basketball school. Cool. And if they win, you never hear the end of it. So, but all I will say for that game is that UNC Duke happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever that was, with Coach K. And as we've seen, Duke has moved on from it. It's not, it truly, I don't think it's world ending. It may in the moment, but it will kind of pass, especially, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess. But anyway, yeah, those are my final four, all 1 seeds.
Jay, who's going to San Antonio?
I mean, obviously the toughest pick is going to be Auburn or Michigan State. I mean, I'm going to stick to my original pick when I made my bracket. I think Michigan State, I mean, this team obviously hasn't played the full 40 minutes. They didn't look great this weekend. I think they can really put together and get there. They have the depth. They have the rebounding. They have the talent to do it. I'm going to take Michigan State. I don't love the pick, but I definitely think they can do it. And an all-one Final Four. I just, that's boring. I mean, we need that 2 seed to get there. I think Michigan State is the one that's going to do that. As far as the other ones go, I'm going to take Florida. I mean, they're battle tested against UConn. They were able to get that done against back-to-back champs. So I'll take Florida. They still look really good. Duke looks like world beaters, so I'm not going to pick against them. Houston looks, I mean, they're gonna stifle you on defense. That's what they do. I don't see any of those other 3 teams beating them in that region, so I'll take Houston as well. So, we're going to get those 4, and we'll see what happens. So,
the last and only time the Final Four had all 4 1 seeds make it was 2008. That was held in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. I think we're going to see it again. I think it's Auburn, Florida, Duke, Houston. I don't love it, but it feels that's the way it's going. And really in each region, I think there's probably 1 team in each region that could take down the 1 seed. I don't see it happening in any of them. I'm sure that it will, and somebody's going to fall somewhere. And like Matt has been saying, that bubble may burst this weekend, and it may become an unmitigated disaster for the SEC. I don't know. I'm hopeful the bubble bursts, but I don't know if it's happening.
Just imagine we get to Saturday morning, and the only SEC team left standing is the winner Tennessee, Kentucky, simply because one of them has to win. And then they proceed to get blown up by Houston, which will probably happen regardless. I'm just saying it would be quite awesome if the SEC missed out on this Final Four.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, it would be kind of fun.
No, because I literally just said that 2 SEC teams would make the Final Four. I was about to say that I think there's a great chance none make it versus 2 make it, but that's not true because I think Florida's going to make it. Even though I think Texas Tech will give them a game, I'll still take Florida. But anywho, just saying, I'm praying on the SEC's downfall. That's all I want.
I mean, feel like that's what a lot of us are doing right now. So given that, we'll do this quickly because I do want it to get mentioned. Let's quickly talk about the women's tournament. They are at the Sweet 16 too. It's been more chalk than the men's has been. But the big news is obviously Juju Watkins tore her ACL last night for USC. And it sucks. It's terrible. But this should be a moment where, ESPN stops focusing on one person and, focuses on more of, players in college basketball. I don't know. Maybe talking about somebody from Minnesota that plays for UConn. I don't know. Maybe it's because she's in her 10th year of college that nobody's talking about her. I don't know. But Matt, I'll just go to you first here. I just give me your Final Four pick. We don't really have to go in depth on this, but
you should not have gone to me first because I have not watched a single second of the women's tournament, especially after Michigan State got absolutely housed yesterday at noon. All I will say, Nick, is that the reason Paige Beckers doesn't – actually, I'm not going to finish my statement about Paige Beckers versus Juju Watkins. It just does not need to be shared. But I'll share it after the show. UCLA is going to win that regional. Give me UConn will now win that regional due to Juju Watkins not having a knee anymore. South Carolina, because South Carolina. Hey, Duke plays UNC. Look at that. Does anybody care? No?
Sure.
Okay, that's what I thought. Give me Notre Dame to win that region. The hell with it. I know they're pretty good. They absolutely fell apart at the end of the year. But I still think they're pretty good from what I remember. They were a top team in like mid-February. I think they were. Once again, I covered women's basketball 2 years ago for the Impact, and it's all gone out the window. All I know is OHL hockey and Michigan State basketball and NCAA basketball at this point. Yeah, give me Notre Dame. So give me the 3-1 seeds in Notre Dame. On to you, Jay.
Right.
You're up.
Yeah, Jay.
No, I concur. As somebody who covered the women's team with you, I do not know anything about what's going on these days. So give me UConn because of Juju Watkins. Honestly, I feel like UConn's due this year. Nick, I mean, you probably know, when was the last time they won a national title? Obviously, you probably know.
2016. That was the end of the 4 straight years, and
yes,
they have not won since.
Yeah. So I'll take UCLA in Regional 1. I'll take UConn in that region. South Carolina, can't bet against them. I mean, they're always just a powerhouse every single year. And then it's just chalk. I just love this. I'll take Texas, I guess. I'll take UConn to upset UCLA. I like UConn to win the national title. I think they're due. Paige Beckers gets her final ride before she goes off the WNBA, and yeah, I'll take UConn to win the national title. So they're back.
Wow. Those are beautiful words just spoken right there. Jay Walsh, we'll go to you. Your thoughts here.
Well, so similarly to Jay and Matt, unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to cover women's basketball for Impact because I wasn't in Impact. But similarly to Jay and Matt, I have not watched a lot of the women's tournament, regrettably. Unfortunately, the only game that I watched and paid attention to was, unfortunately, Michigan State's second-round matchup against North Carolina State. And that was not a pleasant experience to watch. So we're not going to talk about that, but I am going to take North Carolina State to get to the Final Four out of that region. I think they upset UCLA in the Elite Eight. The rest of it we've kind of talked about. I'm going with UConn. Obviously, with no Juju, that region seems very wide open for them. South Carolina, enough said. And then I will side with Matt here. I will go with Notre Dame because as far as I'm aware, Notre Dame has been very good this year. They're usually a very solid team in the women's basketball, and I believe they are along those same lines this year. Yeah, not a lot else to be said. I'm going with Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, it's been what's said needs to be said. Jay said it the best though, because he went to the full national championship. Yeah, it's UCLA, UConn, South Carolina. I don't know about that last region. I took Notre Dame too, so doesn't matter, not really, because South Carolina will win that game in the national semifinal and play whoever wins the absolute gauntlet of a matchup between UCLA and UConn, which is probably going to be UConn. And then UConn already just destroyed South Carolina. In South Carolina, like back in February, it was like a 20-point victory or something like that. Do it again. Why not? Yeah, this feels like UConn's year. And we'll do another tournament. This one, Matt, I can go to you first because I know you're going to know. Let's talk hockey really quick. Michigan State, the number 2 overall seed, they'll take on Cornell on Thursday, live from the Huntington Center in Toledo. And then they will play the winner of Boston University and Ohio State, the same Ohio State team that they just beat into overtimes to win the Big Ten tournament title. Matt, your overall thoughts on MSU hockey and kind of your Frozen Four picks. I know you already texted them to me at like 12:30 this morning, but
yes, I am very fine with Michigan State's draw. I'm definitely more happy with them than the fact they got BU over Denver, even though BU is still going to be a tough matchup in that regional final. I'm not worried about Ohio State having a home ice advantage in Toledo. Not one bit. I think Cornell is going to be a tougher game than people realize, though, in that first round. The only bad team, quote unquote, in this tournament is Bentley. and BC will wash the floor with them whenever they play. The only issue I have with this NCAA tournament, is the fact that the only game on ESPN Plus is Michigan State Cornell. Every other game is on cable television for some reason, except for this one. Michigan State's draw, I think, is favorable. I think they get to the Frozen Four. I still think they can beat BU in one game. This team is just, in a championship environment, win or go home, this team has the depth to go with you. They can go, if this game, tight games, tournament games are always tight. If it goes to overtime, goes to 2 overtimes, they have the depth to skate, and nobody's going to be able to keep up with them for that long. As we found out, we found this out last year in the tournament. We found this out again on Sunday or Saturday against Ohio State again. I think they get to the Frozen Four. I think Boston College gets to the Frozen Four. I think they're at risk slightly with their 2 seed. I have to look back at the bracket. I forget who the 2 seed is in the BC region. If you know off the top of your head, Nick.
I think it's Providence because I know Denver.
It is Providence.
It's
is it Providence? The Providence Denver game?
Yeah, it's Providence.
I like Denver to beat Providence regardless, but I think Denver BC would be an absolute gauntlet of a game. I think the biggest upset, I think Penn State goes to the Frozen Four. I think they beat Maine. I know a lot of people are picking Maine to win it all. I don't understand why. Nick, you've watched more Maine hockey than I have this year, and I know what your thoughts are on the Black Bears. Great uniform combo. I hope Michigan State plays Maine in the Frozen Four simply because it would just be cool to look at. But I don't think Maine even gets out of that first game, especially for a home game for the Nittany Lions and for how good they're playing right now. And I think they'll. I don't think UConn will get to the Frozen Four, unfortunately, Nick. I think UMass will be tough, but I think Western gets as well, and then I think Michigan State beats BC in the title game. So I think MSU and Western will both make the Frozen Four, along with BC and Penn State, and then it'll be MSU versus BC in the title game. And those 2 games in East Lansing were pretty good, especially Game 2, which Shape was just able to win. I think that rubber match in St. Louis would be, one of the best. Honestly, probably the best. I don't want to overstate it because I haven't paid attention to college hockey intently before last year, but I can't imagine there being much better just styles of hockey, brands of hockey, talent that BC has, even still to an extent the talent MSU has. It would be a game that everybody that has any interest in hockey should watch, but ESPN won't do a good enough job of getting eyes in front of it, but that's besides the point.
Well, when you have John Buccigross as your play-by-play commentator for college hockey, things get a little bit difficult there, but it is what it is. Jay Coster, your Frozen Four picks, and if you have any thoughts on MSU, just go after it.
Yeah, I'll take Quinnipiac to win this region. I feel like they've been there, done that type of program. They're always very consistent. Down this year, but I think they can get there. Matt is grinning right now with my college hockey knowledge. I just love it. So I'll take Quinnipiac. I'll take Michigan State. Obviously, I'll take Michigan State to go to the title game. They're battle tested. They've had, they played BC earlier this year. And I could definitely see, I will predict that they'll play Michigan State in the national title game. So I'll take them there. So I'll take Michigan State in that region. I like Minnesota. I like Minnesota to come out of that region. I know they're kind of down this year, but I like them to kind of take down UMass and then get Western Michigan, and then obviously Boston College. I'll take them, and I agree, Matt. Boston College versus Denver will be a hell of a game. So I'll take Denver to beat Providence there. So yeah, give me Boston College versus Michigan State in the title game. I'll take Michigan State to win it. They're just battle tested. They've had played a tough Big Ten schedule, and they've been able to get it done. So I'll take Michigan State to win the Frozen Four.
Jay Walsh, you next. Your kind of just predictions here.
Well, as I just said with the women's tournament, as little as I know and pay attention to women's college basketball this time of year, college hockey is significantly worse for me. I know MSU is a national championship contender. I know they've been number 1 and number 2 with Boston College throughout the season, but that is about the extent of my knowledge. So without further ado, we'll get into my picks here. I will be taking Boston College to win their region. Not going to provide any analysis for any of these picks, by the way, because I truly cannot. I'm gonna go with Western Michigan. I know, like Jay said, Minnesota is usually pretty good, but from everything that I've heard from my my coworker who is big into college hockey, he is very out on Minnesota this year, so I will follow his footsteps. And I know Western, I believe they played a pretty competitive game against MSU in the GLI, correct? It was, yeah. So I'll go with Western to get out of the regional. Not going to go chalk across the board. I am going to go with Mr. JDC and go with Quinnipiac, mostly because I love Quinnipiac. Very fun college to say. I love them from their I believe they've had a couple trips to the NCAA tournament. I remember them being in the NCAA college basketball tournament, or maybe not. I feel like I could be making that up, but I feel like I remember that. So I'm going to go with Quinnipiac, and I will go with MSU to win their region for obvious reasons. I mean, MSU, let's go. Although with my limited knowledge, I feel like I know Matt said he likes the draw. With my limited knowledge, the draw doesn't look great to me. I trust your analysis 100% that you like the draw, but I just, from everything that I know and have seen, I feel like that's not very kind. But I do trust MSU to get out of it. And I will be going MSU versus Boston College in the championship, and I will go with the Spartans.
Matt,
Couple things.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to handle it, Nick, or do you want me to handle what just came out of Jay Walsh's mouth?
You might as well go first.
Okay, well, first off, they won the national title 2 years ago. Jay Walsh, they're a year removed from a national title in 2023.
Who?
For college hockey. Quinnipiac.
No, I was talking about the NCAA basketball tournament. I remember them being in.
Well,
if
I'm not mistaken, Nick, they've never made the NCAA.
Have they not?
No.
Then I'm just completely making that up, I guess. Okay. I thought I remembered them being in it.
I thought you were talking about their hockey team. Like, yeah, they've been pretty good at the last 10 years.
I know that they're usually pretty good in hockey. That I'm not that much of an idiot about college hockey. I know some of the good teams usually, but anyway, go ahead.
Follow-up question for you and JDC. Where is Quinnipiac?
Great geography.
I believe somewhere in New England, I believe.
Outstanding. You're red hot.
I don't know. Somewhere by Canada.
I need
Are they in Massachusetts or no?
No. Jay, I need a state. One of
Pennsylvania?
the 50 states or Puerto Rico.
Pennsylvania?
No. They're in Connecticut.
Sick.
Hamden, Connecticut. Whatever the hell that is. Anyways, Nick,
Gotcha.
get to your picks because you probably honestly are going to have a better bracket than I will. But
Okay, so Matt, all year, what have you been talking about? What's the narrative you've been pushing with hockey?
oh god.
Very generic, not very, very generic, maybe dealing with locations.
Oh, I mean, are you about to throw out the stat about St. Louis first and fourth?
Well, yes, that's kind of what I was leaning towards, but the stat is St. Louis has hosted 2 Final or Frozen Fours previously. Both times a Michigan team has won the national championship. It was like 73 or 83. It was Michigan Tech that won it. In 2007, it was Michigan State, their obviously last national championship. Matt, you have been pushing the narrative all year. They were going to get back to St. Louis because it's the first time St. Louis was hosted since then. But with the way the bracket is broken out, I don't know if you've made the connections yet, but in 2007, the run for Michigan State in the Midwest Regional, which was in Grand Rapids, they played Boston University in the first round. They played Notre Dame in the regional final. They played Maine in the semifinal, Boston College in the final. I'm just saying Cornell is the only one that's not in there. Obviously, Notre Dame's not in there from 07, but MSU could play Boston University in a regional final. They could play Maine in a semifinal. They can play Boston College in a final. Is it going to break that way? No, because the ice bus is going to be running through Allentown. They're winning the regional. Give me UConn. God. You know what? Michigan State national champions over Boston College. I don't care what happens in the other regionals. It is what it is. Go UConn. Go Huskies. Ice bus. Yeah.
All I'll say to that is that instead of playing BU, playing Ohio State would, I think, fill that narrative more of 07 all over again, because Michigan State won the regular season title this year, but Notre Dame was in the CCHA that year. I believe Notre Dame won this CCHA that season in 07.
They were the number one
Michigan State's
seed.
biggest.
So, yeah, probably.
That was like Michigan State's number one competitor, I believe, in 07. Michigan was good, obviously, that year, at least somewhat, if I have to imagine. But and Ohio State's probably the one team in the Big Ten. In all honesty, not that I'm mad that Michigan State got a conference opponent again in their same region. But to an extent, it's not great, especially because it's the team. Like, it's similar to last year. Your 3 seed's the team you just beat in overtime for the Big Ten title, and a team you've had pretty good success against that season. So it kind of sucks that there's a chance Ohio State beats BU, and that's St. Louis all over again last year. Even though Ohio State's not as talented as that Michigan team last year. Like, in one game that you did not want to see that Michigan team, regardless of who you were in the country. But I still think BU takes care of Ohio State this time for Michigan State. But anyways, that can be it. I'm glad I decided to actually start doing some hockey analysis here and at minute 82 of this show.
Hey, it is what it is. Matt, I'm just going to ask you this question because I know Jay Walsh and Jay won't even come close to getting this. And maybe I'll open up the floor if you don't get it. But in 2007, that Midwest Regional, we obviously know 3 of the teams. Who is the 4 seed that played Notre Dame in the first round?
Can I get a conference?
I'll give you they no longer exist.
Oh, dear Lord.
Like the team no longer exists or the conference no longer exists?
Yeah, the program.
The
Assuming
team.
the program. No?
Oh.
Yeah.
Is it like an AIC situation where they now no longer exist because their season just ended and they no longer exist? Or is it?
They, I believe, folded during COVID for funding issues.
I don't know.
I'm Jay Walsh. Do you have any guesses? Alabama Huntsville. The Chargers.
Why did Alabama Huntsville ever have an NCAA hockey team?
They did.
They actually were not terrible. Shout out the Chargers. But I did know they had a hockey program. I just completely blanked on the fact that they existed.
Yep.
Damn, I'm disappointed in myself.
I thought saying that they folded during COVID would have given it away. It was either them or the Alaska schools. Obviously, the Alaska schools have come back, but yeah, I got nothing other than that. So I guess I'll just open the floor. Any last comments before we wrap up this almost hour and a half long episode? Anything? All right. It doesn't look like we got anything, so that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Merrifield Sportsbook Show. Thank you so much for watching. We will be back next week. We'll do a Final Four preview. Who knows? Maybe at some point later in the week, we'll be live from the Alamo. I'll be live from the Alamo. I don't know about anybody else, but we may just do a recording on Sunday, just no matter who's in the national championship, just to say, hey, we're here. But yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling on again. Let's wrap it up. Keep it a quick 125. So for Jay Walsh, Matt, Jay, Nick signing off. We'll see you again next week for another episode of the Merrifield Sportsbook Show.